Hey Kairos, Haley here. We are diving into the Kairos Daily Devo. It's from the book of Romans, chapter 12, verses 1 through 2. I'm going to read it for us. And so, dear brothers and sisters, I plead with you to give your bodies to God because of all he has done for you. Let them be a living and holy sacrifice, the kind he will find acceptable. This is truly the way to worship him. Now I'm going to stop right there. Oftentimes we get into the habit of thinking, oh God, I'm not holy or worthy to offer myself up to you. I want you to remember that you have always belonged to God. God not only created you, God has now come in the person of Jesus Christ and died for you so that you would be forgiven and we would be reconciled to God, which means we would be brought back in right relationship to God because of Jesus Christ. You are already holy, and so now as a living person, we get to surrender ourselves to God and say, God, I belong to you because you say so. And oftentimes we take that passage and we use it against one another in Christian circles to say, you're not really being a holy sacrifice. We'll read a couple verses to finish up this passage, but I wanted to stop there for a minute. It says, do not copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect. Oftentimes we'll say to other Christians, well, you don't look transformed. You're still sinning in the same ways that you've been sinning since you've known Jesus. And that's not okay. That is wrong. We are not here to tell one another how we are not Jesus followers enough. Just knowing Christ is enough. Just receiving grace is enough. And oftentimes we put the standard of you have to change in this way, in this way, in this way in order to be a true Christian. That is absolutely false. You are a true Christian when you know that Christ crucified is for you. Christ has died, Christ has risen, Christ has come again for you. And that's the good news. And because we take that good news and we believe it and we trust it, the Holy Spirit will slowly transform our life and lead us to ways of life that are ways that God intends for us to live versus the way of destruction, which is oftentimes ways that we choose for ourselves, whether that's self-destructive behavior and thought. A lot of that has to do with mental health. That's just a struggle. And then there's also the self-destructive side that puts our own wants and needs above what God desires for our heart. And it actually says in the book of Psalms that God will give you the desires of your heart. But it's the desires that are good and holy and ones that will lead you to life healing and forgiveness. Sometimes the decisions we think are so right because the world says they're right end up being wrong. And they cause pain and they cause suffering. They cause confusion. So I encourage you to find ways to get to know God. Not so that we can finally achieve this transformation. No, you have already been transformed because God's love is that powerful. But now what can that love do for you? How can that love change you? Oftentimes it just means we surrender and allow the Holy Spirit to move in us and change our mind and our heart. We can encourage one another to remember that good news because that's what leads to transformation.